Investors are fleeing from EV stocks, especially EV startups, and that's bad news for a lot of players in the game. But when it comes to games, I like to talk to my favorite player, Randy Kirk, from the Randy Kirk channel. You may have seen him. He's a best-selling author, who knows, and a very famous bottle opener salesman. Door to door, if he must, he will do it, and he will ask you to subscribe. How you doing today, Randy?
I'm doing fine.
Good, good.
And how are you doing?
Ah, so good. If I was doing any better, I'd need to get a urinalysis.
I was I was checking out how the investors are fleeing from stocks this morning. This is Tesla up $7.68, and the Nasdaq is only up 31. So I don't know, and everything else looks red to me. I don't know.
It's weird how Tesla doesn't always track with the macro, but it doesn't. So we've got this from Yahoo Finance, and it's not really, Yahoo is famously terrible, but really they're just an aggregator of anything they can get. And this is actually from the Bloomberglers, who I don't like to link because of the paywall issue, and there is
Yes.
just no value in paying for their content.
No.
There was a time in the backing of some of the world's deepest pockets, and the mere ambition to sell electric cars was enough to inspire confidence in the stocks of upstarts Rivian, Lucid, and now investors have all but thrown in the towel on such shares. Isn't that unfortunate? Would you agree with this sentiment when it comes to Lucid and Rivian?
In terms of throwing in the towels, or the part about that being unfortunate?
Randy. So
So
the first part, let's agree. There was a time in the backing of people were clamoring for an EV startup to back.
a
I think
hundred
that's
billion, $100 billion valuations for companies that didn't have a factory, companies that basically had a drawing. I mean,
yeah,
holy mackerel! People were putting their money into any of these. They wanted the next Tesla, and if
yeah,
only they had known that Tesla was the next Tesla.
yeah, but they didn't. And
No.
now investors have all but thrown in the towel on Lucid and Rivian. Would you agree with that part?
Yeah, that's pretty much a done. I mean, Rivian, you and I had a nice conversation on my channel the other day, or maybe it was today. I don't know. It's someday because we record them on some days anyway. Rivian might still have a chance, and there is still a value there, and the investors are still willing to pay a price. Lucid is almost gone, but yeah, it's certainly. I think Rivian's down around 10 billion valuation maybe now compared to
Some
100 billion. Yeah,
it's down. It's
yeah.
down. So then we'll take a look here. All it took was a fresh dose of reality from the two companies this week around cooling demand for EVs. Rivian, which makes electric pickups, SUVs, and delivery vans, and counts Amazon as its top shareholder, said its production will stay flat at last year's levels. It also announced plans to lay off 10% of its workforce. And Lucid, majority owned by the Saudi government, projected only a slight increase over 2023. Both forecasts fell far short of analysts' expectations. Thoughts?
Yes, well, all of that was true. I did check it, by the way. It is now worth 10 billion, just barely under 10 billion. And yeah, I mean, everything about well, not everything about the earnings call, but pretty much there was a lot of shock that there would be virtually no growth this year. And when you're only selling 50 million cars to be, I'm going to get my
50,000,
50,000.
57,000. Yep.
It's so hard. It's so hard. When we were little, Brian, even when you were little, we didn't talk about trillions or billions of anything.
Definitely not trillions.
Naturally. So anyway, what we got is 50,000 cars, and they want to go up to 55 or something. No, you need to be, if you're at this stage, you should be at 50,000 looking for 100,000 next year. This is not good. Their break even on these cars, I don't know what it is, but I'm have to guess it's way above 57,000. Though they claim in the fourth quarter they will be margin neutral or margin positive.
I love that. There was a video on X where somebody pointed out that when RJ Scaringe, the CEO, said, he said, we will be profitable by Q4, a gulp. and somebody zoomed in and you could see him gulp when he said it. And I said, to be fair, I posted on X, it made James and Loki's Gems of the Week. Pretty happy with myself. I said, to be fair, with an Adam's apple that beefy, even my head would be bobbing like a robin, regardless of which quarter I lied about. So there's an opportunity there to for
Yes.
investors, the sense of gloom has been building since October when Tesla warned of sagging interest in EVs. Do
What?
you do you remember that?
No.
I don't remember that.
No, I don't remember that at all. What Tesla said, of course, what Elon Musk said, of course, was that they were between building years, or I forget the exact words. It was a trough between
Yeah,
two giant growth periods.
right. Because the compact is not yet the factory for the compact hasn't been built. That's the
Yes.
next big jump. That's not sagging interest in EVs. That's we don't have the factories for the next product yet. Those shares of the EV giant have fared poorly since then, losing around 20% and massively underperforming the broader market. The impact on smaller rivals like Rivian and Lucid has been nothing short of disastrous. I'm going to say that these two factors are not connected. These are two Elon's comments were not, and sagging interest in EVs. If that was true, that's not what's hurting Rivian and Lucid. What's
There,
hurting?
there's a
Yeah.
there's a
But
book out. There's a book out and a theory. It's called the blue ocean theory. It's a very important theory in modern thinking about economics, about markets. And the blue ocean theory is that when you're very small, let's take I'm a YouTuber who averages about 4,000 views. Maybe you probably average a few more than that on your show. I still have the potential to grow to 100 million views at a time, like the Beast, or something like that. I have a blue ocean of opportunity out there. Well, that's where Lucid and Rivian are right now. They have a blue ocean going from 50,000 to 55,000. If I didn't do that all by myself as their sales manager, just personally going door to door, I would be sad.
yeah, it would be. So I think Rivian's problems and Lucid's problems are different, and neither of them have to do with waning excitement or enthusiasm or demand. Rivian's problem is if they're still revenue neutral on a per unit basis, growing is going to hurt them. Lucid's problem is that plus the fact that they've got unsold units sitting on the lot worth hundreds of millions that they can't move. Well, it's what, 3,000, 5,000 unsold units, something like that. No matter how few they make, they still don't sell them all, and it's a problem. So
I, I
I would argue that has more to do with it than a broader demand issue.
Can you imagine if Elon was in this situation? I mean, he's sitting there with unsold units, and his life depended on it. But his engineering was doing fine, his production was doing fine. He was all happy with all that. Do you think? I mean, literally, he would be going door to door. I mean, he would
Yeah,
he'd be calling his friends. You need to buy one of these. I mean, it's unbelievable that these organizations are incapable of selling more units than this. It's just unfathomable.
there was a time. I will share a story that describes almost exactly what you're talking about. When Model S was ramped and moving good units, they didn't want to slow the line. So they reached out to employees and said, we will give you a very attractive lease offer of like $200-300 a month on a 60 kilowatt hour battery Model S. These ones aren't moving. We need to move them. Will you take one? And then an employee I spoke with said, at that price, of course I'll drive a luxury car, an amazing beast of a car for that. And yeah, he will go door to door if he must. Shares of the Irvine-based California-based Rivian. Really? I did you know they're in Irvine?
I never even thought about it before.
Huh.
Yeah,
Huh. I
where are they?
just
I don't know where
well,
they are.
I've been to a building that I thought was their headquarters in Normal. No, Normal's the factory. It was near Detroit where I went to what I thought was their headquarters, but maybe it's their design center. I don't know.
No.
Maybe okay. Are down 44% since Tesla's October warning. What a weird benchmark. The first in a series of grim outlooks from global EV makers and suppliers. Now, I'm just going to tell you, the article does not go on to name any issues with suppliers. So I don't know where that comes from.
Well, okay, but Brian, okay, let's give them, again, let's just find a way to give them credit. So we do know that battery makers were pulling back, not opening additional factories. We do know that General Motors and Ford definitely, pulled back. Mercedes pulled back. So I can imagine that some of these part suppliers are going, what the heck? But the overall business, no, at least a few honest reporters are saying, well, January was back up again. In fact, in Europe, it was really strong in January, shockingly strong in January on BEVs. So yeah, I think, yeah, there's probably some suppliers. Maybe they could find some that would say that. Yeah.
Well, don't worry. They're going to hint at the honesty later on.
Oh, okay.
Uh-huh. Still, had it not been for their wealthy backers, Amazon has a 17% stake in Rivian, and the PIF has 60% of Lucid. The stocks could be looking far uglier. Do you think Amazon's 17% backing is what is keeping Rivian afloat?
No, I think that Amazon's decision to buy a whole bunch of vehicles from them and continue to want to buy them would be something that would attract me as an investor. But when you have that many eggs in one basket, then it becomes more questionable. The good news, I think, for Rivian is that Amazon seems to really honestly like the vehicles.
It does
Um,
seem that
and
way.
and if they really honestly like the vehicles and other people have commented that they're pretty good vehicles, then they should have a market. But then that begs the question, why aren't they going to 100,000 next year just on the vans?
It's a great question. I certainly don't have the answer. I am deeply, deeply troubled by by anyone owning 60% of a company, uh,
Yes.
because they hold all the cards. There is no action that they cannot take unilaterally with that kind of voting power. And whereas a 17% stake, if Amazon said, we bring a motion to the board, we want to do this, if it's a bad idea, it will be voted down. It will not pass. So I think I see those two things as quite different. If Amazon said over the next 12 months, we're going to sell out of our Rivian stake, I don't see that being the end of the company. But
It would not be good.
it would
It
not
would
be
not be
good,
good.
but it would not, it's not enough of the company to sink the company. Both Rivian and Lucid are now worth a fraction of the prices they fetched at the public market debuts in 2021. Rivian's market value is around 9.6. Lucid's is about 6.9. Nice. That's a long way down from their 153 and 91 billion valuations. Wow, 153 you got to. That's hilarious. Not as
Oh,
hilarious as VinFast, which topped around,
yeah,
I think we said 80, which
80.
is so ridiculous. These are, yeah, this is tricky. This is those valuations were definitely the wrong ones. Rivian's at 9.6 may still be too high. What do you
Oh, yeah.
think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, probably.
Well,
Yeah.
that
I
puts
mean,
them ahead of Nissan and
yeah,
Mazda and companies that make a lot of cars already
ready and profitably.
and
Yes.
profit. And Lucid is at 6.9 billion.
Yeah.
Lucid is at
Yeah.
6.9
Yeah.
billion dollar market cap. Ugh. And the trick is, if they need another 4 or 5 billion to build their compact model, their mid-size model, that means the existing shares are going to be diluted by about half by the time it falls to the point where they need a cash infusion. Your shares will be diluted by half. So yeah, that's not great. Global EV sales are estimated to grow 20% this year. Wait, what?
20%.
Well, didn't
Who?
they just
Who?
but they just said EVs are down. They just said that.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. So we've got two problems within that. Okay, so number one, oh, sales are going to increase, and it's only going to be 20%, which no, I don't know anybody that's saying 20%. Now, Tesla might only be 20 to 35% this year. I hope not, but it's reasonable to say maybe they're going to be 20 to 35% this year. But internationally, for all markets, for all makes, no, there's no way it's going to be 20% this year.
China's the largest market. They're going to grow. I think China will grow by more than 20%. That will offset some of the other markets. EVs are just being introduced in new markets where they will take some market share. In the US, Tesla is not the only EV maker. There are other companies who make EVs at our Electric Avenue at the Oregon International Auto Show. What a great name. We had a long wall full of pictures showing all the different models that are available today as battery electrics, and plugins were on there too for some reason. I don't know why, but just the battery electrics, there were so many choices of cars that you can get on the market in the US today. And those manufacturers are motivated to sell. So I don't know. I don't know. Whatever. But yeah, now they're inconsistent in saying, yeah, EV demand is sagging, but it's going to be up 20% to about 16.7 million, according to Bloomberg most recent analysis. So the Bloomberg, I assume that's the terminal that costs, what is it, 10,000 a month or something? Is it 10 or is it 50? I don't know. It's a very expensive terminal, but you get some pretty terrible insights when
Yeah.
it comes to EVs. That's a marked cooling from the 33% jump seen in 2023. Now, if it is 20% growth this year, and it was 33% last year, would you consider that a sign of impending doom?
No, I think that would be very good gains for an industry that has been growing at 50% a year. I would be expecting that, like Elon says, if the industry slows down to 20 or 25 or 35% this year, that it will also be a trough for the industry. And it'll just be a matter, yeah, and then the next year go back to a
We could also be nearing the top of the S curve, because if we're
right.
looking at global adoption, China's already reaching a level that's so high that adding another 25% is not going to be possible, because it'll already be too close to the top. 25% would take them, when you're at 80% adoption, 26% is impossible because you're already bumping up against the ceiling there. Uh-huh. Trying to be the next Tesla is turning out to be an expensive strategy, said Adam Jonas. Yeah. Adam Jonas gets a lot of this stuff right in my experience. As EV startups turn into restructuring worries, whoever finds a sponsor has the best chance. Apart from Tesla, how many EV startups can you think of that will survive without another cash infusion? And I wouldn't
No,
call, yeah, zero. I wouldn't call BYD an EV startup
no,
because
not at all.
they're a well-established company with a long track record of
They were making ice cars
and
uh,
yes,
and hybrids as well before they started making the BEVs. So yeah,
yeah,
they would be a
th-
legacy car company of a sort.
of a sort. They're a legacy company for sure.
Right.
Of the startups, Tesla's the only one I can think of that isn't in a position where they are going to require a cash infusion to definitely survive. There are some that might make it. Maybe in China, there are some that have enough cash to get profitable. But the big ones in China, if you're looking at NIO and Li and Xiaopeng, all of those are still in the red
Yeah.
every quarter.
Yeah.
So it is, as fearful as people are of these of China EVs in general, they are not the silver bullet that's going to make cheap cars just happen. They're selling cars at a loss. Maybe not on a per unit basis, but overall for sure. Randy, what did we forget to tell everybody? Did we miss anything on this story?
I think we've got the main pieces covered. Yeah.
Are there any other companies you guys would like us to examine in the way we just did with Lucide and Rivian? Because maybe those are interesting too. I know there are plenty of people who would love for me to say nice things about Neo, but I don't think they're going to watch this video. They only show up when I talk about Neo, and only to leave nasty comments without watching the video first. So that's pretty exciting. So, everybody in the comments, what did we miss? What do we misunderstand? Like buttons, subscribey things, heading over to the Randy Kirk channel to see what he's up to. Who knows? It might be something interesting. We did have a really great discussion on a variety of EV companies around the world this week on his channel. Maybe check that out. And everybody else, like, subscribe, do the usual thing, smack the thummies, you know what you're doing, and stay tuned, stay juicy, and I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots on the flippity flop.